Hello everyone, I'm Angelo. Been homeless in Los Angeles for almost 2 months now, and before that in Northern Virginia for 6 months. I just got out of the post office where they told me I can't get a P.O. box. I can't get one because I need an address that's here. And I should have just told them, well, I still live in Virginia, because that's what's on my ID. But I said, no, I came out here. They said, well, where are you living? I said, I'm homeless in my car. They said, well, you need an address here. Well, I'm like, I'm not going to have an address. What am I supposed to do? They said, well, I said, can I put the post office as my address? They said, yeah. So I filled out a change of address form, went back in line. Some whiny old white man behind me was like, oh, Jesus, Master Race coming through, please, I'm white. Oh, gotta let me through, I earned it. Went back up and they said, no, you still can't get a P.O. box. This is good for picking up your mail here, but you cannot make a P.O. box with this until you have an address. So I'm not going to have an address for a while, more than likely. I still refuse to pay landlords if I can help it. That hasn't changed. I barely make any money. I can't, you know what? I'll say this, for all the praise I've heaped onto Jordan Belfort, trucks going by, the Wolf of Wall Street for a sales system, which is great. It is a very, it's like this weird, like, Ubermensch, or whatever the word is, that Nietzschean, like, Superman, white male-dominated world, and basically a world dominated by sociopaths. That is the world of successful entrepreneurs. He's done interviews with these two entrepreneurs. They look right through a person. They don't even see a person, a human being there. The first guy, yes, so freaking intense. Second guy, no emotion. It's like, yeah, so what I would do is I would set up a party at a restaurant or a bar, and I would say, I'm going to give you $100 ticket, but I'm going to comp you. That way it creates a value. Whole thing, no emotion. Like, are you a human being? And for all the hundreds of millions he's raised and stuff, here's the charity he does. Gives away backpacks to the homeless. Now, he spends a lot of money on it. I believe that. But for all the money he makes, he doesn't have money to pay his volunteers. But worse than that, he sets the bar so low at just giving stuff to the homeless so they can keep being homeless. How about you put your face on the campaign to get people in housing, to end homelessness? You can give backpacks people every day for the rest of their life full of supplies. They'll never stop being homeless. It's just like, here you go, homeless people, go fuck yourself. That's how you be an important businessman. I don't care. He's so many of his statements where I don't care and it doesn't matter and who's gonna know. That was so many of it. It says what your beliefs are when you that sociopathic and unfeeling about people. So there are lessons to be mined in there, but a lot of it is so creepy. As far as like the people who are successful in this world, Justin the tripod, and I've got my tripod here I'm using on top of my car. Successful by being seemingly like utterly unfeeling people with no regard for especially the humanity of the poor, or definitely no understanding of their circumstances. Even though these people have come from poverty, they still don't seem to know or care. And I get it, because like that's how, if you're taught that, you still will never have the mindset to understand what it really means to get out of poverty, because they're exceptional cases. Anyways, what was I talking about? P.O. box. So, okay, here's the deal. If one of you out there is willing to let me use your address as my updated address so I can get this P.O. box, email me, flyingovertroutam@gmail.com. You can message me on Twitter or Facebook. Everything's linked in the description. And Flying Over Trout is spelled with a 0, not an O. It's just like in my channel name, but I'll type out my email in the description and comments. If you have an address that I can use around Los Angeles, let me know. I will never tell anyone. No one needs to know. I'm not interested in ever talking about it, and I want to use it as least as possible just to pick up mail until I get the P.O. box. Once I have that address, I'll get the P.O. box. All my mail is going to the P.O. box. Yeah, I think I can do that. I don't know, because someone told me I could with the DMV, because the other thing is I want to go to the DMV, get my California driver's license, but to do that I have to have an address, and I can't use a P.O. box. So someone told me that I can use the post office itself as the address, and after the zip code for the second group of numbers, put the P.O. box number in there and it'll get mailed to the P.O. box. So I don't know how that works. Like, I can put a mailing address is different from my legal address, my residence, and put the mailing address on the California driver's license. I don't know. But basically, I don't want to ever have to do anything that involves too much of dealing with you, like in your address. I'll be glad to just use my P.O. box for everything. Also, my glasses broke. Here's the hell of it. I gotta see if I got a spare of these in my trunk. I ordered a spare. I got them. I don't know where they are. My prescription sunglasses, somehow I took them out of the TSA, the bin, and they're lost. I don't know where I put them. Somehow from I picked them out of the bin, I remember that flying to Virginia, and then after that they were gone. That was a lot of traffic. I'm still at the post office, so what the hell else was I talking? Oh, the glasses. So cheap, they were just sitting on my face, and they started feeling weird, and then the lens popped out, and they were broken. And so I tried gluing them back on, and that didn't work, so then I taped them, but then the lens kept popping out, so I also glued the lens, and then I used, it wasn't acetone I got, it was rubbing alcohol to try and rub some of the alcohol off this, and off the rental car, which I put a bunch of super glue on the dashboard by accident, couldn't get it off, they didn't charge me for it. So, yeah, if anyone has an address, man, the entrepreneur, and I'm glad I had enough exposure to that world a little bit to see that I never really want to be a part of it, and also I'd never want to be accepted by it in a way, because it's like I'm not about being like all cold-blooded and mechanical. Like, I'm sure not every one of them is like that, but it's just so weird, and there's a tone deafness. Two of them said they believed the most, Jordan Belfort said this with another entrepreneur, said the most bullied person in the world is Donald Trump, and they're like, oh, disgraceful, terrible. And that shows who they assign humanity for, because if they know other people get bullied a ton and don't have Trump's power and don't bully people the way Trump does, mistreat people, they just don't care. They don't assign humanity to them. So Jordan Belfort gives great lessons in sales, and they've changed my life. But I've taken that usefulness, and I see how it's a very much white male fixated world still. And people like him will claim it's colorblind, but that's the excuse you need to keep ignoring bigotry and prejudice, and ultimately be complicit in it and perpetuate it. I mean, we're all complicit in it, but to, be more complicit and perpetuate it than like if you had chosen to try not to, just to speak up, to say something. This other guy gives away backpacks to the homeless. He could just, he's talking about all this money he puts into this charity. Well, it's free to just, be an advocate, to speak up. He doesn't want to. Everything is about being like the superior human being. It's like he wants to create a master race. It's like of masters and slaves. Just no regard. Like the way he talked, it was so unsettling, this weird monotone. Like, do you feel emotions? Belfort was all animated and stuff, but this is because, so what I did was I took my shares in this company, I went to a shell company, and what I did with the shell company is I merged into them, and that was our public offering. Well, what happened, do you understand how weird that is? Anyways, so yeah, I need the address. If someone has one, you can share with me. Around LA, I don't need to do anything there, that's not strictly necessary. Like just pick up whatever documents may be necessary. Everything else will try and get sent to the P.O. box. Horrible if you're homeless. What the fuck is someone supposed to do? Man, the system's really making it difficult. I want to fucking pay for a P.O. box. $46 for 6 months. Can't even do it. So, And it's so noisy here. Hold for noise. Here, I'll take a thumbnail picture. Oh wait, I already took some, I think. Oh, the plane goes by. So he talks about niches and, you know, having a niche that you serve. This is the niche I'm trying to serve, is getting all these people who are struggling, you know, energized, not getting them to do something, but getting all of us who have any means and ability to realize, like, we could be motivating the next person over, and they could motivate the next person over, and on. Say, we don't have to put up with such crappy conditions where we're being exploited by rich people like you, the one who was in that video, who's making hundreds of millions, and he's like, here's your crumbs, you plebs. Here you go, homeless guy. Here you go. I want to make sure the charity is part of the branding, and so I pay a lot of money. We put a bunch of items in the backpacks and we give them, and then the homeless people can sleep in their filth. So there you go. What the fuck do you want? You could just be an advocate. Man, you have a fucking voice, you have a platform, you've absolutely fucking refused. And he talked about growing up like middle class to lower class-ish, poor-ish, probably, you know, like lacking for a lot, and yet no understanding of really like that everybody cannot just Superman their way out of poverty, and like not understanding that you are a sociopath. Like, that's partly why you do what you do. I choose to have some humanity, so I'm not going to be like going around like, excuse me, I want to give you this free event, but what you're going to do is give me 2% on your deal. I'll do it with some fucking humanity, man. If I'm going to be with people that, like, I'm trying to empower them, I'm not trying to just make the rich richer. That's apparently what this guy, or only very specific people he works with. Anyways, oh my goodness, it was sickening. But, you know, that's the imagery we're taught to revere. That's when I was growing up, through a teenager, even through a lot of my 20s, was thinking rich people are great because they're rich. And now seeing just how empty that is. It means nothing. I look at everything around me, the waste, the lack of proper infrastructure, proper health care, schools, transportation, the destruction we're doing to the environment, all the racism we're inflicting on people, the bigotry against immigrants, and say, we could change all that, be so much more wealthy and prosperous, and have our fucking dignity, where you don't have to have certain elites looking down on people, which is what they were doing in LA the other day. These racists and bigots were complaining that homeless people are around me, and if I don't make a payment on my mortgage, my house gets taken from me. So why shouldn't a homeless person living in their car get towed if they have 5 or more tickets? So what is this, like just a kink thing, like a fetish for punishment? You know, treat it like a kink, that's fine, it's your kink. Keep it private. Don't bring it into the public square where other people have to accept it. Whatever this fetish for punishment is. And by the way, who benefits from all that? Nobody. We all waste money. We all have to live with the indignity of knowing our neighbors are in misery and poverty and on the street. We all have to pay more when they're getting, you know, medical treatment in the emergency rooms. The only benefit is rich people get that feeling, being energized, that fascist righteousness of being able to look down on someone under your jackboot and crush them and say, you got the punishment you deserve. That exhilarates me. That gives me some pleasure. That's my fetish. That's my kink. It gets me off. Total change from what I was when I was a kid, which was thinking basically that homeless people deserve where they are. That's what I was taught. I literally read that. That's what was normal to believe. Amazing how somehow I was raised in a somewhat unremarkable environment, and that's the message that came through with me. And you can see that in my brother, who still believes that stuff. The white supremacist one, Michael, who basically hates people if they're poor, I guess. He hates black people. He's posted horrible stuff about Black Lives Matter. But it's so funny how he criticizes them like they're a bunch of savages and criminals. He's got 2 convictions for assault and battery. Both he acted like weren't his fault. But he supports a very system that inflicts so much punishment on other people for stuff that shouldn't ever even be a criminal matter. Oh, I'm gonna solve this traffic. So need an address, homeless, and gonna try and get a California driver's license. Another thing I was thinking about while I'm here enjoying this discussion is how when I was disabled for 9 months, how it just took something out of me. It took a little bit of the feeling of potential in the world, a little bit of the sharpness to me, a little bit of my sharpness. Like, I'm not quite as sharp as I used to be in a way, but at the same time, and I always feel like I escaped it. Like it's some prison cell I ran out of, and it's still there waiting for me again. Not that it feels horribly oppressive at any given moment, but I was just thinking about it. It's just, feeling this thing like, now I know what it's like to be entombed in this feeling of, not being able to function. I couldn't drive. I could barely sit up for a time. I could barely eat and swallow even. You look up Angelo was disabled for 9 months, you'll see the story of what happened to me, but I was in excruciating pain for some time. I forget how many weeks it was, 5, 6 weeks, or maybe a month, I don't know, but at the lowest point, I was pacing uncontrollably and ducking my head down and up 23 hours a day, basically. Can you imagine that? Going through the day, getting an excruciating pain to where I was seeing the TV, I couldn't bear, one of the worst days, I couldn't even turn on my computer. It was so painful. Not physically, it was somehow like psychic pain, like emotional pain, feeling like this vice gripping down on me. Like if I try and exhibit any feeling of, being normal and being back in the normal world just to check an email or something, it was like a vice bearing down on me with spikes. It was excruciating. And a lot of it stemmed from, those old religious feelings that I was raised with in Christian schools, that life is all forsaken. It's all for nothing. You should shun all desires because they're idolatrous. Everything's evil, all pleasures of the flesh. And so you Christians out there, you don't even take it seriously what you do. You're like, okay, creator of the whole universe supposedly did everything and sacrificed everything for me, but 20 minutes a week, good enough for me. And then I'll live my ordinary life. I'll jerk off, I'll have sex, whatever. I'll eat what I want, work the job I want. I'm not going to lose my life for my faith. No, someone else can do that. Meaning the people who are supposedly you revere that are more devout. Oh, they can, but no, I want to live like, basically you live like Satanists, like atheists, like you seek to, excite your own pleasures. You eat food that's pleasurable for you. You go have sex. You have families. You live the life that you want. You put up art. Those are pleasures of the flesh. It's exciting the senses, arousing the senses. You're supposed to deaden the senses so that you can be connected to a much more pure world, disconnected from this one. You hypocrites. So you don't really believe that stuff. You're all a bunch of garbage liars. And you inflict it on children, which is the worst part of what you do. You're all scum. Please let me know about the address, flyingovertrout@gmail.com. Yeah, I was just thinking about that, how it's like always like this thing burrowed in me, that feeling of being disabled, and feeling tortured, like God was trying to destroy me and rip me out of my body, and I knew something was wrong with that, but I couldn't work my way out of that fog. Like I would literally lie in my bed and be hallucinating that I'm hundreds of feet up in the air and looking at the ceiling in my room, which was only like 8 feet or something, and struggling to focus on that so I could remember I'm down on the ground, I'm not way up in the air. You try going that, you Christians, and see if you want to keep your faith. Not that I was religious, not that I had any belief at all by then. Like by then I was already an atheist for several years. But you try going through that, see if it's worth it to you. Because if you believe it, if you really believe it, what's a little suffering? What's losing your life compared to an eternity in heaven? Not even, and if you go to hell, not even 1 billion years will be the beginning. Not even 1 trillion years would be the beginning of your suffering. Not even 100 trillion years would be the beginning of your suffering. You'll suffer forever. So what could it compare, giving up these pleasures you have in order to be with God? Oh, wait a minute, you don't believe that. You say, what would people do without God? You just kill and steal and stab people. Those are the easy things not to do for most people, because we have a nervous system which, when you hurt someone else, it hurts you too a lot of times. And you say, well, yeah, what about people who don't have that? Right, they exist. So the world looks just like this hypothetical you're talking about where there's no God. So what are you saying? That God makes all Christians behave, the fear of God makes all Christians behave well? If you really believe that, most Christians, or a lot of them, believe that masturbation is wrong. Why don't you claim, look, all these Christians don't masturbate because they know the punishment is so severe for it? And really, what are you guys talking about when you're saying people behave well because of our system? You're just saying they want to avoid pain and seek pleasure. Well, we can already do that here. We do it horribly, and for some reason Christians revere the courts a lot, even though they're horrible and all screwed up. But a lot of you are white supremacists anyways. So it's a ranty video. Yeah, I just had to get that out of me. I felt like ranting a lot. I had some messed up dreams last night too. So whenever I get like that, I get excited, like, yeah, I'm myself again. Okay. I gotta go work, I gotta go to the library, do stuff, write stuff. Gotta get a LinkedIn page. That's what everybody says, gotta get on LinkedIn. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Yeah, it's so much to do. Please let me know if I can use your address in Los Angeles, because I might have to physically get some mail there or something at some point. And I'll make it as easy as possible. If you have mail for me, you know, you can always just email or text me and say, hey, I just have some mail, I just left it under the front doormat or something. And then I'll see from there what I can do with my address. All right.